I certainly feel for these families. They've been through a lot, and I know that the chief also stated the same thing.
Tonight, the Thunder Bay Police Services Board apologizes to families waiting for justice.
I was trying to reach for my phone, and then the officers were getting ready to put unholster their firearms, and then I just put my hands up.
Plus, 2 separate allegations of racial profiling in Manitoba.
It's amazing feeling that to know that I'm giving back to my community, that somebody else is going to enjoy this.
And survivors of family violence are building houses in Tyendinaga. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. The chair of the Thunder Bay Police Services Board is apologizing to the families whose loved ones' sudden deaths need to be re-examined. Kristen Oliver also says despite previous reports, the board is not the focus of any of the ongoing investigations into the Thunder Bay Police Service and members of its administration. It's the first time the board chair has spoken publicly and answered questions from the media since a confidential report was leaked to media, including APTN News. That report, submitted by a blended investigative team, found the sudden deaths of 14 Indigenous people warranted further investigation. Dozens of death investigations by Thunder Bay Police have now been called into question, almost all of them including Indigenous people.
I certainly feel for these families. They've been through a lot, and I know that the chief also stated the same thing. When we look at the reinvestigations and the outcomes of these investigations, I think that these families have been, they continue to feel grief and sorrow because the closure just isn't there. And for that, I sincerely apologize that families are experiencing this continuous sense of the reinvestigations.
The OPP has launched a criminal investigation into unnamed members of the police service. The Ontario Civilian Police Commission has announced an investigation into high-ranking members. Oliver says the Thunder Bay Police Services Board is not under any investigation.
We have had it confirmed through our lawyer that the board is not part of the OCPC investigation. We're not included in the terms of reference. But if you also recognize in the terms of reference, it does make note that they could change. At this point, though, we have no reason to believe that the board will be under investigation.
Now, Oliver also says she doesn't agree with the calls being made to disband the Thunder Bay Police Service. You can read much more on this story over on our website, aptnnews.ca. In Manitoba, 2 incidents of alleged racial profiling took place over the last few weeks. One involving a respected elder in Manitoba's north, and the other a man working outside a Winnipeg hotel. Here's more. A trip to pick up furniture from the Brick by a respected elder in Manitoba's north did not go as planned. Edwin Beardy says he was told the bed he bought in February was ready for pickup, so he made the 2-hour drive from Tatasquay at Cree Nation to Thompson. But when he arrived, he was told bed parts were not in. He asked for and received a refund instead of waiting. He was shocked by what happened next.
A man came behind at desk and then he started walking away. He said, "Come back when you're sober. You're drunk. Come back when you're sober," he told me. So I said, "What? I don't even drink. I did throw from Split Lake to get here." No, you're drunk. Come back when you're sober," he said.
RCMP said they got a call about a possible impaired driver and a man causing a disturbance at a business. The driver was given an ASD-approved screening device, and the result was a 0 reading. The file was concluded. Beardy has a condition called Kennedy's disease, which he says weakens his facial muscles and lower body.
So what I had to do was kind of hold my face lip area in order to blow. I did manage to blow into the breath like it. And then we waited. And then the RCMP said it's reading 0. And then they left.
Staff of the Brick in Thompson are supposed to give Beardy a formal apology and take cross-cultural training. There was another incident in Winnipeg. Junior Cochrane is an ambassador for the First Nations Health and Social Secretariat. He was on patrol outside a Winnipeg hotel when he was stopped and questioned by police. Now, they said Cochrane fit the description of someone who assaulted the hotel manager. He reached for his phone, but he said officers reached for their guns, so he put his hands up.
I was trying to reach for my phone, and then the officers were getting ready to put their unholster their firearms. And then I just put my hands up and I was like, I'm just trying to grab my phone. And they said, don't move. And then they took everything out of my pockets and they asked what I was doing there. And I told them I was working and I was on patrol, and they didn't believe me.
He said they put 2 sets of handcuffs on him and put him in the back of a police car. They also asked how much he had been drinking. He said he was not and reiterated he was working.
He went in with his partner, and then they came back out and then there was a couple more officers with them, and then he let me out and handcuffed me. He says, "Oh, I guess you're free to go. We have the wrong guy." And I was like, "Yeah, I told you had the wrong guy." And then a female officer with dark hair, she came up and she apologized to me, and I was like, "Thank you, I accept your apology." And I was pretty upset at the otother officers, and I didn't say anything else. I just went inside, and I wanted to leave after that. I didn't want to be at the building. I was pretty upset about it.
Cochrane has filed a report with the Law Enforcement Review Agency. Brenda Sanderson leads the Secretariat's Turtle team. Founded in 2021, the team provides various services, including cultural and family support for First Nations people.
Everyone was quite, shocked, completely taken aback. When we spoke about this later on, it was like a slap in the face for a group of people that have been working really hard and diligent throughout this pandemic time, and completely inappropriate, in my mind. And at first, my first thought was racial profiling. We were angry, we were hurt.
Sanderson said they reached out to the Winnipeg Police Service to invite them into a sharing circle, but were told the service was advised not to participate by their lawyers and union advisors. APTN News asked Winnipeg Police for comment, but were told they don't comment on matters before the Law Enforcement Review Agency. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg. We want to hear what you think about these incidents that took place in recent weeks. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. During a virtual press conference today, Federal Justice Minister David Lametti announced new funding for the Native Women's Shelter of Montreal. $300,000 over 3 years will go to support the shelter's Ishkway project. Ishkway aims to reduce the cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls by focusing on prevention strategies. The funding is part of the federal pathway to address the MMIWG crisis. However, the pathway does not address all 213 calls to justice made by the National MMIWG Inquiry. In June 2021, the National Family and Survivors Circle published a national action plan to implement the calls to justice. Minister Lametti was unable to say when they will all be implemented.
What you're seeing now, or you're seeing today, or you've seen at other places, is specific announcements that build into that. In this case, this I believe is my second formal announcement with justice parts of that pathway, but certainly other parts will be elaborated by Minister Miller, Minister Haidu, and Indigenous Services.
It's time for a short break, but first, a quick look at something we're working on. Our Kent Driscoll is in Iqaluit, Nunavut, and asking about how the rising cost of living will play out in the Arctic.
I'm here in Iqaluit, outside of the grocery store. Now, Nunavut already has some of the highest food costs in the country, and that's despite a federal program that tries to lower the costs for northern and remote communities. Now, as far as Canada goes, in February, the inflation rate jumped 5.7%. That's the highest jump since August of 1991. Food prices, well, they're expected to go up anywhere between 5 and 7% this year. What does that mean for Nunavut? We're going to try and find out right here on APTN National News.
Welcome back to APTN National News. 5 women from Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory in southern Ontario have many reasons to celebrate. They've made a huge contribution to women fleeing domestic violence and gained new skills along the way. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
1, 2, 3, go.
And just like that, with a few snips, these small homes are officially ready for occupancy. The 2 new buildings will offer a safe place for women in transition at the Red Cedar Shelter.
They need time to recover from the trauma and to, to find, suitable housing for their families. And of course, that's quite a challenge now in this day and age because a lot of people that are on limited incomes are priced out of the housing market because there's such a shortage of housing. It's a chronic problem in every community. It's all across Canada, but it's profoundly an issue in First Nations communities.
But another important reason to celebrate the opening is these homes were built by women. The 6-month Heels to Work Boots project provided 5 women with the carpentry skills needed to complete every stage of building from the ground up. It's something that Tammy McGuire couldn't be more proud of.
It's amazing feeling that to know that I'm giving back to my community, that somebody else is going to enjoy this.
It's inspired Kirsten Sparks to look at a career in plumbing.
After here, I guess I would apply for to companies and apply for an apprenticeship and do my 4 or 5 years of apprenticeship in plumbing, and then I would become a journeyperson.
According to the project manager, Chris Miracle, it was a great opportunity for all involved. He's already proposed a new project.
We're hoping that our chief and council will approve of the first phase of the very first First Nation tiny house development, which will be net zero standards. We have a responsibility as First Nations people to protect the environment. So if you build a net zero, there's not much more you can do from the housing standpoint to reduce the energy consumption. By having that many more ladies on site, I don't see any reason why in a couple of years we won't have one of these ladies start their own general contracting business.
McGuire says she's hopeful too.
I would like to stay with the program and help with the tiny homes as long as they are willing to.
According to Tyendinaga's chief, Don Miracle, plans to expand the project and build more tiny homes is currently under discussion. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Tyendinaga.
The Saskatchewan government has announced funding for a new type of home for youth at risk in Saskatoon. But the organization running the home says the city's safe consumption site is what the government really needs to come through for. APTN's Leanne Sanders reports.
Michael's home has been quietly operating in a residential neighborhood in Saskatoon for about a year. The government recently announced over $660,000 in yearly funding for prairie harm reduction to run it. We can't show you the home due to privacy concerns, but 5 young men are living there, and they're allowed to use substances while staying in the home, which is staffed 24/7. Kayla DeMung says it offers the kids the stability they may not have known before, while giving them the freedom to come and go, even when they're using.
That attachment piece is often missing, whether it's from their home communities or their families of origin. People need to belong somewhere, and so if we can offer them that in this home, then maybe we won't ever need to see them in our safe consumption site or in our drop-in services, right?
DeMung says the recent funding announcement for the home shows the government recognizes the value in harm reduction, but so far that hasn't translated into funding for Prairie Harm Reduction's safe consumption site. All 5 of the youth in the home are Indigenous, and DeMung estimates about 75% of the clients at the safe consumption site are Indigenous. Last year, they asked for $1.3 million from the province, but were denied. And DeMung says they again had to rely on fundraising and community donations. The denial in funding came in a year where the Provincial Coroner's Service reported 464 people overdosed, a record number for Saskatchewan. 83 were Indigenous. DeMung says the number of deaths will only grow if the government doesn't do more.
It is their job to take care of the people of this province, and that means all the people, not just the people that are convenient to support. Is definitely harder, I think, to look at funding people who are actively using substances, but I think we tend to forget that they're people too.
DeMung says she'll be closely watching when the budget is released March 23rd, just like she does every year.
It's definitely anxiety-filled experience, just knowing that so much of our ability to support our community is determined that day.
Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
A well-known Yukon prospector is being recognized for his contributions to the mining industry. While he wasn't Indigenous, he had a strong connection to Indigenous people. Before we go to break, here's a sneak peek at a story Sarah Connors is working on.
He's a legend in the Yukon mining industry. Born to a black father and a white mother, the late prospector Peter Risby led a remarkable life intertwined with Indigenous people and culture.
In an era where, those kind of things were not commonplace, he really blazed a trail.
The incredible life of Peter Risby. That's coming soon on APTN National News.
Welcome back to APTN National News. It's time now for our photo of the day. Doris Nabis Flett from Wapella, Saskatchewan, located in Treaty 4 territory, shared with us this surprise visitor that came right up to her front door. Doris told us that the very next day she was surprised to find a deer came to visit. Sounds like a new type of delivery service is underway in Wapella. Send your pics to share@aptn.ca and be sure to share all of the details of your photos for the chance to be our next photo of the day. And now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Beginning in the east, 8 degrees in Charlottetown and 8 degrees in Halifax. -9 in Nain and -6 in Cartwright. +10 in Quebec City and +15 in Montreal. 11 degrees in North Bay and 16 in Toronto. 2 degrees in Big Trout Lake and 3 degrees in snow in Sioux Lookout. -6 in a mixture of sun and cloud in Churchill and +5 in Norway House. Snow and +1 in Winnipeg and -1 in Barons River. 3 degrees in sunshine in Saskatoon and 8 degrees in sun in Swift Current. Snow and -4 in Stony Rapids and +4 in sun in Meadow Lake. Over in the west, +4 in Fort Chipewyan and +4 in Peace River. 12 degrees in Lethbridge and 11 degrees in Calgary. 9 degrees in Quesnel and 10 in Vancouver. 4 degrees in Dease Lake and 7 in Fort Nelson. -18 in Old Crow and +3 in Whitehorse. -17 in snow in Norman Wells and 8 degrees in Trout Lake. -20 in Inuvik and snow and -19 in Colville Lake. Snow and -18 in Cambridge Bay and -18 in Baker Lake. -17 in snow in Resolute and -19 in snow in Iqaluit. An Inuit Film Festival premieres tonight in Ottawa. 6 short films use various forms of media to get their point across, and they are being broadcast outside the National Arts Centre for all of the public to see. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
In English, the film festival's name means lighting up the world with my knowledge. Echo Hanash's film uses hand-drawn animation to show a fierce polar bear turned to stone by a shaman. Megan Kayak Monteith's Large Feast on a Bed of Cardboard uses both paint and computer animation. And Nunavut artist Asiniak 3000 uses video and computer animation to look at Inuit life past, present, and future. Asiniak is also the curator of the festival.
As for what holds all of them together, I think that they're films that are grounded at their most core place in love and in celebrating of our culture.
She says one of the advantages of the festival is that it is being broadcast outside on the NAC's exterior. The Inuit Film Festival runs every night, Wednesday to Sunday in the nation's capital. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Enoch Cree Nation's Ashley Collingbull is the first Indigenous woman to be a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. Collingbull, a former Mrs. Universe, is one of 14 finalists to be featured in an upcoming swim issue of the magazine. The winner will be featured in the 2023 Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, which has been published for almost 60 years. She's currently in the Dominican Republic for the photo shoot. Collingbull says she has received a lot of support.
It means so much to me. Representation really does matter. You know, I've been getting hundreds of messages from Indigenous people, like women, men, young girls, and they're all saying like, finally, they feel represented once they see a face that looks like theirs. It's really powerful to see. And, for me, yes, I'm the first, but to me, it's most important that I'm not the last. I want whoever is next in the space to just walk in here comfortably, confidently, and she can shine.
We certainly wish her the best of luck. If you missed In Focus today, we've got you covered. We looked at harvesting rights from coast to coast, salmon, moose, and even baby eels. Independent biologist Alexandra Morton joined us to talk about the Pacific salmon, to talk about how the Pacific salmon have recovered, after the removal of Atlantic salmon farms. Here's a bit of that conversation. What does the science say in the places where these farms have been removed?
Well, so it's all very recent, but last year I went down to a place called the Discovery Islands, which is where all the salmon from the Fraser River funnel through on their way to sea after they've hatched and they come out into the ocean. And I've done this for 20 years, and the fish have always been covered with lice and emaciated and dying. But last year they were so beautiful. Like I realized after looking at thousands of these little fish, I didn't really know what their body shape was. They don't have flat sides. They're round. They have little shadows under their bellies. They're so plump. And I pick them up each into a little baggie and I hold a hand lens. So I'm actually like looking eye to eye with these fish. And some of those salmon, the pink salmon, will be back this summer. And so I'm very curious to see how big a return we're going to get after the farms were removed.
All right, that's all we have for you tonight on APTN National News. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Daryl Stranger. Thank you for joining us and have a great night.